the streets. And the irony, of course, here is you've got fire burning on one side of the street, and you've got a major flood coming down on the other as that water seeks the low spot. And this will be repeating itself all the way through the San Fernando Valley as you have this enormous amount of water being released. Not on purpose, folks. This was a water main break, and we want to...
The Bullocks department store, the reason we know is you can see it right there in the middle of your street. It says B-U-L-L-O. We assume that is part of the Bullocks sign on the side of the building. The roof has collapsed here, and as you can see, the insides of this building are completely exposed.
Frank, are you able to hear us here in the studio? Are you able to hear us, Frank? Trying to ask Frank a question if we get an opportunity. Can Frank hear us? Are you able to hear us in the studio, Frank? No.
I can't really hear you. What I'm going to suggest is this. We know some structure problems at an apartment complex about 30 seconds away from here. If we'll just keep on this live picture, we will take you down the street to an apartment complex where there's some more damage that we want to show you here in the Northridge area. Robbie, let's go ahead and take them over there. Bill, you're going to stay hot, and we're just going to keep you hot as we go over to this apartment complex. The apartment complex that we are heading into now will be just west of Cal State Northridge. You are looking to the north here at some buildings as we travel just to the east. We are going to be heading right over to Cal State Northridge to it, and right at your 6 o'clock, Bill, pan down, and you'll see it. To the right. And what you see there, you can see it now, an apartment complex. This is something that I can tell you that people at the State Seismic Safety Commission have been concerned about. Some of these older apartment buildings that were built prior to 1971. These kinds of older buildings sometimes were not retrofitted to fit earthquake standards. As you can see, the garage apparently collapsed, and the entire apartment building there collapsed on top of this truck and on top of at least two other vehicles that we can see down there. And it looks like, if you can just widen out a little bit, Phil, and Phil, widen out a bit and show them how the building seems to have just almost split apart. You can see that it simply came off right there in the middle, right over the garage, and split apart there. Let's go to the left now a little bit. 1 block to the north, we are near Reseda and Plummer here. And to the north, let's show them this other apartment complex. I think you've seen some ground video of this other apartment complex, but we'll fly it for you to give you a wider view. There it is now. We're near Reseda and Plummer once again. And as you can see, another one of the older apartment buildings, and you can see the catastrophic damage that happened to this structure. This one seems to have, it looks like a floor collapsed on that side. And as we move down the building, you can see the force of this quake on this building. The last that I heard was that Northridge was near the epicenter. And as you can see, this apartment building suffered a great deal of damage in this.
Frank Buckley, are you able to hear us in the studio?
I can hear you.
Yes?
Yes, I can hear you.
Frank, we don't see emergency crews there. This is not where Michelle Holden was, apparently, or is she out in front of that building?
I'm sorry, I'm losing you.
All right. Also, the Bullocks that Frank showed us, I strongly suspect was not seen.
If you're asking about Cal State Northridge, I can tell you that we do, just a moment ago, we left Cal State Northridge, and there was an active structure fire. Pan to your right, Phil. I want to show them this parking structure. Pan to your right. All the way past the building, right there. You can see the parking structure simply went down. You can see the parking bridge that people probably use there to get across, and it simply collapsed. You can see the car over on its side, and that chunk, it looks like just a chunk, fell right down in this parking structure. I wanted to, as I was saying just a moment ago, we are just to the west of Cal State Northridge. And a moment ago, we left there, and we saw an active structure fire. We can move, it's just about a block over if you'd like. We can just keep this picture hot and keep going. Robbie, let's go ahead and take them to Cal State Northridge and show them what's happening there. We are, again, just to give you a locator near Reseda and Plummer, you are looking to the southeast, and okay, and that's Cal State Northridge in the distance. We're going to continue here now and keep showing you this picture. We are over the Northridge area where we've seen several structures damaged. We've seen the fires over Sylmar, and you can see the smoke and the haze that continues to hang over the area. We're now getting over Cal State Northridge now, and we are at Cal State Northridge, and you can see the smoke coming out of a couple of the buildings there. I'm not familiar with the campus itself. I don't know which buildings they are, but you can see the smoke coming out. I can tell you that we did see the emergency crews pull up, the fire crews, it looked like 2 engines a few minutes ago, pull up on this building. They hadn't started the firefighting effort yet, but we're going to get around to the exposure side, and you can see, you'll be able to see in a moment where the flame is coming out of and which buildings we're talking about here. As you can see, we're going to swing around. We're now on the east side of Cal State Northridge, and you can see the smoke pouring out of this building. And okay, let's go ahead and show them this fire, then we'll go to that structure, Robbie. Let's get around to the side here, and we're going to show you where the smoke is coming out of this structure, and then in a second we're going to just take you to the northeast. There's another parking structure collapse. You can see the firefighting effort going on here at Cal State Northridge. An upper floor of this building looks like it has been victimized by this fire that broke out during the earthquake. We can count 1, 2, 3 fire engines and a battalion chief on scene, and it looks like some local folks. Let's go ahead and swing around there, Robbie, and show them that parking structure. We've got one more parking structure we need to show you right here, and this is, I believe, also part of the Cal State Northridge campus. It's maybe their main parking area, and it is just to the east of the pool, if you're familiar with Cal State Northridge, just to the east of the swimming diving pool. And you can see this parking structure now that collapsed. All of it. I can see 1, 2, 3. It's a 4-level or 5-level parking went down. And look on the east side of it here. Pan down just a bit, Bill, and show them how it just bent over. Look at that. The entire wall, when the top of this structure went down, the wall simply moved in. And as we go along here, along this parking structure, you'll see in a moment a stairway come into view.
It was okay by checking with an out-of-town contact.
Yeah, you can actually call out. It's the calls in that cause the problem, and apparently the phone companies are allowing people to call out. We did. We were able to inform our friends and relatives that we were okay. And we had actually one of our boys sleeping over at a friend's house, and we called to check in on him. That's the problem. You know, you separate out your family sometimes, and you're concerned about where your loved ones are and whether or not they're safe. At this point, you can see the utter devastation of this parking structure at Cal State Northridge. We have only a few places where we can show you pictures of the damage. There's widespread damage across the San Fernando Valley. This is Northridge, the epicenter of the quake, and you can see that it was this building was literally ripped to shreds by the motion on the ground. And Stan Chambers earlier showed us an apartment building that had been moved some 3 feet off its foundation, and people trying to salvage what they could from their apartment.
We also have a number of fires going in various spots as well. There was one area of Sylmar where as many as 45 homes were on fire. They were mobile homes. And Jennifer York reported earlier that as she looked across the San Fernando Valley, you could see many fires, and there's one of them there.
Right there.
Plumes of smoke.
Governor Wilson has just signed the declaration for a state disaster declaration. So we are now under that.
What strikes me as we look at the parking structure and the associated fires is we're looking at all the big pictures, and of course the things that we can't see, which our viewers are experiencing, are the little pictures inside everybody's individual home.
Oh,
yeah. And,
it doesn't mean that their lives aren't turned upside down.
No, and you know, we've seen this before. People will be so fearful after a quake of this magnitude, there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to want to sleep in their homes tonight, and they're going to be out on the streets.
Valley, in Landers, they did not want to go back.
They refused to go inside.
Pitch tents outside. Now, we don't, you know, clearly it's difficult to be calm at a time like this. My nerves are still rattled. I'm sure yours are too. This is not a time for panic or a time to be so afraid so as not to be able to go back into your home. If you see no significant damage in your home, you see no major cracking, if you had a few things spill onto your floor, chances are your home is very livable, very safe, and you're okay. Of course, if you see significant damage, if you've seen a lot of things tossed about, cracks in the walls, if your apartment building has sustained some damage, then you need to stay out of that and look to authorities to assist you then. But clearly the best thing to do is to stay calm, to gather your family and friends and loved ones around you, support one another, you know, and carry on with your life. There's no reason to stop because there's a tremendous sense of fright. We're all afraid. It's a scary time for all of us that just went through this. But clearly you need to use your head and use common sense.
You're going to need
don't give up on where you are.
You're going to need the common sense and to keep your wits about you, because there's going to be a lot of situations over the next few days. As we look at Van Nuys Airport, the control tower, where the glass was shattered.
Broken there.
And with that in mind, I think to also think to a degree of, as you go back into your homes, what to do in the event of an
collapsed. It pancaked atop what is now the northbound lanes of the Interstate 5 freeway. 14 south collapsed atop 5 north. But it's even worse than we thought initially. There was a fatality here, an LAPD officer on a motorcycle. He died here. But in addition to the southbound 14 being shut down, if we can swing around and show you here, the northbound 14 has also collapsed. 14 headed into this major interchange. Both northbound has collapsed as well as southbound. So this is a major, major problem and will be obviously for some time. You can zoom in through here. You can see the section, an entire section of the northbound 14, where it leads up to 5, northbound 14 has also collapsed. There were several people around when all of this happened. One of them is with me now. His name is Mark Southert. Southert. Tell me what happened with you. You actually saw the LAPD officer. Tell me what you saw, please.
At that point, we were assisting a pregnant woman that had some serious injuries on a tailgate of a truck, and then so the helicopter could take her away. And about that time, because we were up here on the overpass, the collapse portion, and up above, we saw these lights come, the screw.
To the west or the southwest of the Santa Monica mountain range? Or do those mountains not normally act as a buffer? To the south?
Well, there are a couple of factors here. One is the direction the energy from the earthquake was propagated. In this case, it may have gone this way, it may have gone that way. We're not sure yet. That'll come out in succeeding weeks as we analyze the seismic data. The other point is that Los Angeles sits on top of a big bowl of sediments, if you will. It's called the Los Angeles Basin. It's quite deep. This is a situation where once seismic energy gets into that basin, it can bounce around and amplify itself. This is one reason for concern of earthquakes in Los Angeles is earthquakes can be amplified in these sedimentary basinal type environments. It's possible that some of that damage south of the mountains was related to that.
Are you still operating on the theory, or at least on the kind of for those of us who don't understand a lot of the technical part of it, that the two mountain ranges are kind of squeezing the
Exactly. And if you think about it, what we're saying here is that the Earth's crust is being squished that way. It's like you're just squeezing it from north to south. There are two ways to accommodate that. You can either do it by shoving a block up a ramp to the south. You know, if you think about it, these two things move together and it's shorter. Or you can do it, as may have been done today, backwards. We call this thing a back thrust.
So the San Fernando Valley is getting scrunched a little
Exactly.
bit. And did you say that aftershocks seem to be triggering, or seem to be maybe breaking loose part of the fault that caused the 71?
As if there's some white material. You were reading the side of the tanker. It says ASTX. Sulfuric acid, Phil? Okay, Phil Arno, the photographer, is saying that may be sulfuric acid there. But we see folks walking around. It looks like officials from the trains, and they are walking around, and It does say sulfuric acid. Okay, it says sulfuric acid. You can read it. Yeah, there it is.
Yes, we do. We can see it, Frank. But there are fire department crews on the scene.
Well, I'll tell you, Pat, I don't see any fire crews here. What I do see are people from, I'm not sure which rail company it would be, but it appears that they're wearing the hard hats and they're working the area. I don't see anyone in the hazmat, in the hazardous materials suits. But that's your scene here with this train derailment.
Okay, Frank, if you could hold those pictures for us, please. We'd like to bring in on the telephone from the Federal Emergency Management Administration, Phil Kogan. Phil, are you there? Phil Kogan from FEMA, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
118 freeway, the I-5, the 14, and the Santa Monica I-10.
The 118 freeway is fairly new to Southern California. It is one of the more recently constructed freeways, and yet still, it doesn't look as though it was able to stand up to this morning's 6.6 earthquake. And so this might be cause for some rethinking in what exactly makes a freeway earthquake safe. Because if it was up to code, this should not have happened. But then again, that's a little bit on the speculative side. We're not going to know for a while to what code it was built, and we're not going to know exactly how this damage occurred until the seismologists come back from the field.
Well, this is a very interesting test for the new subway that they're building. There's been a lot of controversy about the thickness of the walls down into the subway areas. Instead of 9 inches, I believe, they wanted them to be 12 inches. And so it'll be interesting to take a look and inspect those subway tunnels to find out if, in fact, they have held up underneath this, during this last earthquake.
And as you're saying that, Carla, we will point out that light rail service in Southern California and the Los Angeles area today has been canceled because of this morning's earthquake that came through at 4:31, including MetroLink, which is the train system, relatively new, that brings in commuters from outlying areas, both to the north and to the east of downtown Los Angeles. Just once again to say the obvious, it was so fortunate, if you are going to be forced to live through an earthquake, it was so fortunate that this earthquake happened when it did, 4:31 in the morning before the workday began, and on a holiday when very few people, compared to the normal number, would be going to work. Had this earthquake happened during the typical business day, you know that the damage and also the list of fatalities would be far greater than it is.
Now, a 6.6 is what is considered a moderate earthquake, but it can cause severe damage, and we've been seeing some of that damage right now. We were lucky, actually, during the Landers earthquake. There was only 1 death on June 28th, 1982, and is that right?
1992,
1992.
And there was indeed one
there's a typo
confirmed
right
fatality. 7.5 was the size of that earthquake, so that was bigger than today's by far.
Right, that was out in a rural area. Now you see it concentrated in the Los Angeles metro area, and we already have 5 confirmed deaths. And that's because it's more populated, more buildings, more structures. Some of them are older buildings, but you can see, you know, from our freeway system, this wasn't built all that long ago, and it gave way. So it was a very powerful jolt.
So the Landers earthquake was usually referred to as the Landers Big Bear quakes because 2 twin quakes came down on the 28th of June in '92. The second one in Big Bear was
set up across the Southland, and those people who have suffered a lot of damage will be allowed to get small.
First of all, going through the area to determine where there are possible dangers to people so everyone can be warned. They are checking all roads. The Highway Patrol is checking all freeways for any possibility of danger. But you can be sure there'll be deputies out there to protect everyone's property. But we also
the generic probability that any quake is a foreshock, and that's about 5% or 1 chance in 20.
Was President Clinton monitoring the situation minute by minute? LAX is closed at this hour.
Valley area especially are being asked to boil the water until further notice. What you need to do is boil your water for about 20 minutes,